This is Hannibal here from the Hannibal TV on YouTube with my weekly review of the points I find interesting in Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer newsletter. And check out my interview with Marty Jannetty this week. I really enjoyed it. I will be having Lance Von Erich on for a live fan Q&A soon, so make sure you subscribe to the Hannibal TV on YouTube and like us on Facebook. Let me jump into the news. The combination of UFC and WWE grossed 2,804,300,000 for 2024, but led to only 6,400,000 in profits. Apparently, there is some cutbacks at the WWE/TKO offices in Connecticut. They're apparently lowering. It's lowering employee morale because they've cut some employees and they have some employees doing the same work that they were just doing for one company, now doing for both WWE and UFC. So as far as the actual office workers, apparently they're not happy. The talent in WWE in particular are paid better than ever. So, and they work less than ever. Apparently, this is something that no matter what you say for Vince McMahon, he never had ticket prices as high as they are now. And apparently, according to this TKO business call that happened yesterday, WWE is going to continue to raise ticket prices with doing less shows. They've already pretty much cut all but very few house shows, mostly international, and still keeping the odd one at Madison Square Garden. But they pretty much cut all American and Canadian house shows. So they want people to travel to the TV tapings and pay-per-views. Like, for instance, if you used to, I don't know if they're going to come back to Ottawa or not, but now they'd expect an Ottawa person to maybe drive to Montreal to go to a show, which is about 2 hours. And they're going to make tickets more expensive again because there's less of the product. So they'd rather do less and make more per time than have more of the house shows and less profit per show. And they already had been cutting back. For instance, in 2024, they did 98 television tapings, 13 pay-per-views, which will increase to 14 this year, and 65 house shows. Now, they'll probably be lucky if they do 10 house shows this year, and most of those house shows are going to be done in other places. And I don't even think they're going to do 10. So again, I don't know if that's going to help them in the long run, to be perfectly honest with you, because your average person can't afford to go to a house show now, and not having them in your city, that really gave like a personal connection to fans with wrestlers. You could actually touch them. What TV show? I mean, now there's Comic Cons and stuff, but like one of the things that was cool about wrestling is you could be a fan of it, but you could actually the characters were real. You could meet them, and in those days, you could wait out at the back after, and a lot of the times they'd sign autographs. Now they want you to sign autographs at the official sessions where you have to pay ridiculous amounts of money to get their autograph. So most of the time they'll refuse autographs and even throw fits about it if you ask for their autograph in an airport and act like total divas, male or female. You'll hear this big hoopla if you ask a wrestler, even though they only work one day a week. God forbid you see a wrestler at an airport who have some of the easiest jobs in the world. Honestly, it used to be a hard job. Now it's one of the easiest jobs in entertainment. Like, God forbid you ask them for an autograph if you see them at an airport these days. Remember when they used to have to work 7 days a week, sometimes twice Saturdays, twice on Sundays, and deal with fan attacks on a regular basis. And they would still sign your autograph for free if you wanted it. That's what the business was built on. But it's definitely changed to something totally different these days. There's going to be 3 Saudi Arabia shows next year. They get an average of 55 million a show going to Saudi Arabia. So they will now be getting 3 of those next year, including a Royal Rumble Saudi Arabia show, which is going to be even more than 55 million, according to Dave Meltzer. So again, for people that are like, oh, business is better than ever, in the past, they didn't get this TV revenue. It just didn't exist. There was no streaming YouTube revenue and all that. And there was no Saudi Arabia paying them 55 million a show. They had to make their money basically based on gates at events and pay-per-views. Yeah, K Dog. That it's just disgusting how much the AEW guys get for doing so little. Stephanie McMahon is basically back working for WWE now. She's hosting several shows, including podcasts. She is back working for them. If she was ever really gone, I mean, she's married to the guy running it. And I mean, it's not like Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, it's not like they're not going to be talking about wrestling in their personal time. Somebody like Triple H is going to be talking about, he lives, eats, sleeps, and breathes wrestling. So, I mean, it's not like he wasn't being, at the very least, advised by Stephanie McMahon the whole time. And I'm sure she still has stock in the company. WWE's Elimination Chamber in Toronto this weekend only has 4 matches. This is the second 4-match pay-per-view, which to me, I mean, they only have 4 matches and they drag out the time in between the matches so much. It just becomes too long for somebody like me to want to watch. I don't want to watch a 3-hour pay-per-view with 4 matches, sorry. And apparently they sold an additional 2,300 tickets after The Rock said he was going to be at the show on Monday. And they're adding The Rock. I mean, they only have, including the 2,300 tickets from The Rock and comps, they only have 29,876 tickets for the Toronto Skydome, John Cena's last match. That held 68,000 for WrestleMania 6. So, and they haven't been to Toronto. I don't even know when the last time they were in Toronto. The last time they were in Canada was November. Let me look that up. Last time WWE in, it's been a while. I'm not exactly sure when they were there. And I'm sorry to digress here. I am curious though. We are live, folks. It was Money in the Bank 2024, July 6th. So they haven't been to Toronto for a very long time either. They used to go to Toronto monthly. And again, that's not even half full with The Rock and John Cena's last match. And again, this might be one of the other reasons John Cena is expected to win, which I hope he wins. A lot of people expected him to win the Royal Rumble, and he didn't win the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble, to me, it didn't have The Rock. It didn't have Brock Lesnar return. There was no real surprises in the Royal Rumble. The main surprise was Jey Uso won, but not necessarily in a good way. It was like, oh, Jey Uso won. Wow. But yeah, John Cena is believed to be going on to face Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania and Bianca Belair against Rhea Ripley. I have not much interest in Belair versus Ripley. Rhodes against Cena, I would be interested in, and I would sincerely hope that Cena would beat Rhodes. It doesn't seem like, I know Cena's doing great in Hollywood. It doesn't seem like, and maybe this will change if he wins the title and starts doing more, but it doesn't seem like there's a big excitement over John Cena being back. I expected it to be more at this point, but maybe that will change. Carmella has been released. She hadn't been doing much recently. SmackDown in New Orleans, Louisiana, with The Rock last week that did a good rating, 0.51, their best rating of 2025. Here's the weird thing, though. I would have thought The Rock would have packed the place that had 9,800 fans. The place holds 18,000. So they did not. They got about half full for the SmackDown featuring The Rock. And here's the weird thing. They want to boost ticket prices more. Is that really going to help? Maybe they just don't. I honestly don't think boosting ticket prices is not going to be good in the long run. It's going to turn some people off to the point where they just don't want to go to shows because who wants to pay these prices that is several months wages for an average person when you could just watch it on TV for practically nothing if you have Peacock or in Canada Netflix. The UFC in Seattle did have a legitimate sellout last weekend, February 22nd, 18,287 fans. NXT in Cincinnati, featuring the Hardy Boys return, 1,397 fans in Cincinnati, the same venue AEW ran recently, had about the same crowd. That building does hold 4,500, but I mean, that's not a bad crowd for NXT. They're using, it seems like TNA is pretty much a total crossover brand with NXT at this point. TNA is pretty much a development brand. No, Ivan, like it doesn't feel there's nothing really so far. I hope The Rock does something on WrestleMania because I'm sorry, but Gunther and Jey Uso doesn't. I don't even want to watch that match. I don't even want to watch it. It doesn't excite me at all. There's Cena's match. We're hearing Roman Reigns might be in a three-way, and I don't think he's even on Elimination Chamber. It's strange that to me Roman Reigns is more popular than Cody Rhodes still. Cody Rhodes, like I'm not a fan of Cody Rhodes, but I feel like Cody Rhodes is not as popular now as he was at this time last year when he was going in to wrestle Roman Reigns. I feel like all of his matches, all of his defenses have been very predictable. A lot of people lost interest, but I find it weird that like for how much they're paying Roman Reigns, which I've heard is Brock Lesnar money, 12 million or more a year, they're not using him to his full advantage. Like he should be doing more, in my opinion. That's just my opinion, though. In AEW news, apparently Mike Bailey signed with AEW because he got a better offer there than WWE offered him. Josh Alexander will be starting AEW soon, too. And again, I will agree on Meltzer with this. Well, Bailey and Alexander are decent talents. They are mid card guys. Let's face the facts here. They're mid card guys. Do you really, when you're not using so many people in AEW, you have so many people sitting at home doing nothing? I mean, they don't care. Clearly, they just like to sign people whether they use them or not. But like, do you really need to sign a guy like Mike Bailey? Honestly, I'm if you're gonna release a bunch, he's a lot better than those other Quebec guys that they have in AEW now that are doing that aren't over at all. I don't even remember their names, but there's a couple of Quebec guys in AEW right now that they have barely done anything with. So it's like I could understand if they're going to if they're going to do a release and then okay, we're bringing in some fresh faces, but it's like no, we're going to have these guys. We already have like a bloated roster. Let's add a couple more. But by the way, we still only have the same amount of shows. We're not adding any more television or anything. We're just fattening up the roster even more. I don't get it. And I talked about this a bit yesterday, but Thunder Rosa and Dave Meltzer's bringing it up right now. Uh, I'll put it. I don't know if I still have it up. Um, no, it might not be up anymore. But Thunder Rosa basically made no attempt to keep kayfabe. Said that talked about the miscommunication from last week at Dynamite that they had, where everyone looked terrible. It was it was a horrible botch that happened with Thunder Rosa, and she basically said they're all friends and they all praised each other after, and there's no heat. So again, the only thing good that could have come out of that angle was to make it seem like there was heat and make something interesting. But you're gonna have the blunder and then say, we learned from it. We're all friends. Everything's good. Great dressing room environment. Okay, why should I care? Like there's just zero attempt of kayfabe now. Everybody knows it's fake, but at least try and convince me there's some type of animosity there to make me care about the angle, because you're basically blowing it off. Yes, we screwed up, but we're all friends. There's not even really any heat between us. So by the way, don't you can just continue to not have any interest in what we're doing over here in AEW. The segment was with Penelope Ford and Megan Bain, where she stood there with a chair and did nothing. It was a clear communication issue. They were all inexperienced. Uh, Meltzer says Thunder Rosa did not address what went wrong exactly, only that she chose not to swing a chair because safety was on her mind at the time. Wrestling in 2025, it's a different animal, an animal that I'm not interested in at all. And by the way, Thunder Rosa is getting paid a fortune. Young Bucks and the highest paid tag team of all time, according to Meltzer, are still off for whatever reason. No reason listed why they're off, despite AEW being in their home state of California recently. And for instance, they're going to be in Oakland this weekend, a 19,200 seat arena. They have less than 2,000 tickets sold, and they're not even using the Young Bucks. Nothing happening with Wardlow, sorry, or Phoenix. Here's another example of AEW wasted money, which there's a million of them. Leah Hirsch, 28. Apparently, her contract runs out today. I've never even heard of her. Not saying anything against her, but apparently she's been with the company since 2020 and hasn't appeared since June. So she's been paid from June to now without doing anything. What's their solution? Let's hire more people. In other news, New Japan has been getting under 1,000 fans for a lot of their shows lately in Japan. They're at an all-time low in popularity right now. Someone says Mania lost that special feeling long ago. Well, guys, I appreciate everyone following. Subscribe to the Hannibal TV. Lots of new great content coming. Wish everyone a wonderful Friday. It's beautiful here in Wichita, Kansas.